Hi, everyone. My name is Mark, and I am an alcoholic. And thanks for allowing me to be of service by sharing my story today. And that is a service to do it. And I'm a little nervous because there are a lot of people here, and I don't think anybody here has heard my whole story, which I'll start now. So I was born in the 50s, which you might guess that by the way I look, which is a little older than some of you, and not as old as maybe none of you, actually. I see everybody looks pretty young here. Oh, there's a person here that is my age or around that, a little bit older, maybe. Who knows? Yeah, a little older. So I was born in the 50s. I'm the firstborn of our family. My dad and mom were married in the 50s, obviously, and they're still together now, and they're still alive, which is an amazing thing. My dad was a Marine Corps gunnery sergeant, if you know what that is. That's under a staff sergeant, but he's a tough guy. And he was a tough guy with me as a little kid. And my mom told me when I got older that I used to get spanked as a little baby for doing things that were wrong, and which is amazing to me to think of. And I don't have any memories of that. But my first drink was in 1968, and I was at a wedding reception with my older cousins who thought it'd be funny to get me drunk. And it wasn't that funny, but I didn't seem to mind it. I actually kind of like champagne, even at a young age, which is a taste that I still don't mind champagne. But that's the first thing. Now, my parents were both ultra evangelical fundamentalist Christians. So we were teetotalers at our house. And so there wasn't alcohol in the house. But my dad, years later, actually came to an AA meeting that I was in and told people that he was an alcoholic. He would just never been to any AA meetings his whole life. He was just a dry drunk. And it kind of showed because he was a mean man. Still is. Actually, he's not a mean man now. He's just so old that all the mean's kind of given up on him. And he's kind of sweet now, but he was mean when I was a kid and would strap me with a belt and beat me when I did anything wrong. And that was tough as a kid. And I was the firstborn, and I'm the only male in the family, so I got most of it. And my dad was very strict and relatively fair, but boy, he didn't want to mess with him. Anyway, when I was about 5 years old, I kind of decided I liked boys, and I liked boys a little more than just normal kids like boys. I tended to fall in love with them. So I was pretty much an out an out kid when I was young. At least early on, I let the boys know I liked them, and that didn't go over too well with my dad. He would call me names like Mary Alice and ask me if I needed a purse and things like that. And so he kind of taught me to be kind of hard and more masculine. He said, if you want to drink coffee with me, you drink it black like I do. Uh, and I wanted to be like my dad early on, at least. I'm going to spring forward to my teenage years. And in junior high, I was a terrible, terrible student. My cumulative GPA in junior high school was 1.4 with the 2 years of high school. I was kicked out of many classes for being obnoxious. I'm still obnoxious, but you guys haven't kicked me out of this class yet, which is really nice of you. But I was just a mean bully of a child. I was the kind of guy that would come up to you and in lunch line and say, "I want your money," and then throw you in the trash can afterwards after you gave me your money. I had a little gang that I ran around with. Nick's a guy named Kurt Hodges and uh, a guy named well, I can't remember his name now, but we called him Unibrow because he had one brow, and we were our little gang, and we would actually do things like take our parents' cars and go for joyrides. we're too young to know how to steal cars on our own, but we would steal our parents' cars and go for joyrides. Anyway, so my dad was not very happy with me at this time, and I wasn't drinking at this time when I was that age. For some reason, drinking hadn't come into the scene yet. Luckily for me, but then high school came, and high school it's a whole new world in high school. I wasn't the bully anymore. I was a freshman. I was a little the runt, although I was the same height I am now, 5'9". I was a frosh in high school, and my high school was pretty large, with 2,000 students, and so I learned to adapt. I learned to be less of a bully, and I found alcohol for the first time. Going to parties. I was well liked as a child, as a young person. I was real outgoing. I know a lot of people in AA talk about not feeling a part of. I didn't feel a part of because I was gay, and so I lived a lie all the time. A lie to my parents, a lie to most of my friends. I only had one date in high school with a girl named Christina Rosenson, and I picked her because she was a real staunch Christian. And sadly for me, she liked me a little bit more than I liked her, and put the moves on me in my car and scared the bejesus out of me. And I thought, oh no, everyone's going to know I'm gay now because Christina's going to tell them all that I didn't want to do the wild thing. I didn't want to have sex. Little did I know that girls don't talk like that to each. They may say to each other that Mark was kind of not, but they don't talk like boys do. And so anyway, but I was having a lot of sex. Uh, I was having a lot of sex because I'm an extrovert. I put the moves on just about anybody that was halfway decent looking in my and I found a park close to my house, which I found that older gay men would and younger gay men would travel around and find sex, and so I had a lot of sex. At the same time, I found alcohol. I looked older than I did, than I was, and people would give me alcohol a lot, and I would drink a lot, and I paired drinking with sex early on. And also I found that about 15 years old, I found a gay bar I could get into in Gardnerville, California called Rumor Has It. And so the alcohol flowed freely and all sorts of other drugs too, but alcohol was my drug of choice. I would do Quaaludes, I would do speed, I would do acid, but I really liked alcohol. Alcohol is and I still really like alcohol. That's my problem, is I really like alcohol. The only other problem I had with alcohol was that I became a totally different person. And I could never tell if I was going to be a happy kind of good person or a really mean person like my dad. But my dad taught me how to be really mean and really physical with people. And I was when I drank a lot and I got into a lot of trouble. So I had hidden my homosexuality from my mother, pretty well. I acted straight. I guess I thought I did at least. And they didn't seem to notice that I was gay until one day when my dad caught me with a boy in my room when I was about 16. Well, a boy was my age, one of my schoolmates. And anyway, he kicked me out of the house. So at 16 years old, I was kicked out of the house and told not to come back unless I was going to be straight. And that doesn't seem to really work that way in the grand scheme of things. So uh, it was during the summer, luckily, and so I took off for Hollywood because that's where you go when you're in Southern California, and that's where I grew up. That's where you go if you're going to be a gay kid, and that's where I headed, is Hollywood. And I found that if you walked up and down Santa Monica Boulevard, you get paid for sex if you're a young person. And at the Parks, I used to be paid in alcohol, but when I went to Santa Monica Boulevard, I got paid in money and alcohol and drugs. And at 16, that I was in heaven, man. I thought this is the life. I don't have a dad to deal with anymore. I was a hardened kid anyway because of my father. And so that summer, on and off, I was on Hollywood Boulevard, and that's where I would fly. I would hang out and get paid to have sex. And so I was a sex worker. I know it's hard to look at me now and think, oh, how is that possible, Mark? But yes, I was I was what was called chicken back in the day. And chicken hawks were old guys that would go after us. I was a twink. So I did have spouts of trying to get straight to get back with my parents. I went to, I showed up back at my parents' house. And during this time from about 1975 through about 1983 or 84, I have vignettes of memories. But I can't place sometimes where I was exactly what time I was because I was so alcohol induced, it just imbibed all the time. I did find a gay couple that I lived with and finished out my high school with, and they lived in Brea. I had a car. I had a '65 Ford Galaxy 500, which was the only car I could afford at the time. And I would traverse back and forth from their apartment to my high school. And my school didn't realize that I was living on outside of the school district, basically. So, but I loved high school because I was a social person. So, and I loved the parties and I loved the people. And I ended in my senior year, I was actually a productions chairperson for things like homecoming and dances and stuff like that because I was a gay guy and I'm pretty out there and like to have a good time. People like me. So I graduated and I graduated with a 3.8 GPA, which is pretty amazing since I was living on my own, living a gay lifestyle with this couple of gay men. I don't even know their names now, but they were nice enough to let me live with them. I paid rent and I don't know how. I had jobs, but can't remember what exactly I did. And anyway, but I had enough in my brain to get a scholarship to college called Biola. And that's in La Mirada, California. And before my dad had kicked me out, I had applied for this Christian college. And it was the Bible Institute of Los Angeles. And I got the scholarship, full scholarship. And but I'd been kicked out and I was gay. And so they had something called an MMPI when I applied, and I got accepted that you took, and that's a Minnesota Multifaceted Personality Inventory, and that's a 600 question psychological exam. Basically, they put you through, and I answered the questions honestly, and I started at Biola when I was 17 years old, and I started at this Christian college, and I was drinking. I was having sex with a lot of guys, and I went to a super fundamentalist Christian college. So that's a strange combination, I can tell you what. But I got put in the freshman dorms, and I thought I am in heaven now. There were about 200 guys that were my age, freshmen, in this dorm, and I thought, oh man, this is like Santa Monica Boulevard plus 10. And I started having sex with a lot of the guys in the college there. These are all super Christian kids. A lot of them came from the Midwest and, corn-fed, good, straight, quote unquote, straight kids or closeted kids that had come out to the West Coast. And they met me. And I was like a terror, but I reverted back to my and I would use alcohol. They seemed to enjoy alcohol too, and I reverted back to my non-scholastic self and was put on oh shoot, it's really getting late. I was put on probation, academic probation, but I had a little boyfriend named Robert there, and he helped me through that. Anyway, so during this time, I had developed a psychological problem, uh, and anyway, I got kicked out of Biola and went into a catatonic state there. And they put me in a mental hospital, and I was diagnosed as a schizophrenic. Now, I didn't even know what that was. I thought voices, I thought everyone heard voices. I had not known that that was something different that other people didn't hear, didn't see things. I just thought that's part of what life was like for me. So, but I was in a mental hospital for a few weeks, thought that was pretty bad. And so I wanted to leave because there was no alcohol, there was no partying going on. Definitely no sex because they gave me something called saltpeter, which will stop all that stuff. But anyway, so I left there and moved to San Francisco. This was about 1978. Met a guy named Harvey Milk, who was a real nice man and really open gay person. I started applying my wares again on Polk Street in San Francisco, which is where the gay twinks went to do sex. Uh, and I was drinking a lot. I had an apartment with 9 other guys, and we were partying all the time or having sex, making money. And that was my life. So my parents during this time had moved. I had talked to my parents for a long time. They had moved to Oregon, and somehow I got back in touch with them and came up for a visit and stayed in Oregon. And this was for a short time. Had another mental breakdown, probably because of my father, and ended up in a hospital in Oregon. And during the and this was all because of alcohol and my schizophrenia together. So basically, uh, during a pass from the hospital, I got drunk, and I took all the money I had and bought a ticket in a drunken stupor. Bought a ticket, one-way ticket to Hawaii, because I thought that'd be a good thing to do. Uh, and so I flew to Hawaii. I had $5 when I got there. I had, and I thought, well, now I'm in Hawaii. Uh, and I sobered up because it's a long flight, and I didn't have any money. And so what do you do if you're a young person? I was 18 at the time, 18 or 19. Can't remember exactly. But anyway, what do? You find a gay bar. And I found I've got great gaydar and I've got a nose for gay bars. So I ended up in Waikiki, on Oahu, at a gay bar, and I had a bag with me, and I asked the barkeep if he would take the bag. He took the bag. I found the boy that was a local, and went home with him and my bag, and stayed in Hawaii for 6 months. Now, if you know anything about Hawaii, there's a really famous beach called Waikiki Beach. You know, I lived only a few blocks from the beach. And I never went to the beach. I had a job, uh, and I worked in an arcade, which was a good job at the time, and never got to the beach. You know why? Because I was drinking the whole time, partying the whole time, and never got to Waikiki Beach. So I've been to Waikiki and never got to the beach because of alcohol and partying. I was only concerned with drinking and partying. So I got tired of being. It's called island fever. I was a haole, and with island fever, you decide you got to get back to the mainland, and so I stole money from my employer and took a one-way flight back to California. And that's where I stayed for a little while. But back and forth, San Francisco, Hollywood, uh, and anyway, eventually I ended up back in Oregon. And let's see, timeline. So this is about 1983, 84. And I met a guy. And this was a guy that was a normie. Uh, and I decided my lifestyle was pretty bad. I'd been in and out of mental hospitals because of drinking mostly, but my schizophrenia would kick in really intensely with the drinking. And but I met a guy in Oregon, and I fell in love with him. And we were together, by the way, for 28 years. Now, uh, um, life was pretty good, but I was an alcoholic, and I would go through that alcoholic stages, where I would be drinking, I would have problems, and then I would apologize. And my partner was an enabler. So we were codependent, and we lasted 28 years of drinking, uh, drugging, partying, um, cheating on him, and he never got rid of me. And anyway, things were pretty good. He was working a good job. I was working once in a while, not very often, but he was an enabler, so he kind of let me live a life. And he had a good job, and we traveled all over the world. We traveled to Amsterdam and London and um, Italy a few times, and but all the time on these vacations, all I was concerned about was drinking. And that is really sad because it was such a focal point of everything I did. I mean, if I was in Rome, I was concerned about where I was going to get alcohol. Now that seems insane to people that are normies in quotes, but that's all I cared about. Sure, I went to the Coliseum, but there was a bar right next to the Coliseum that was a gay bar that I thought was really good to spend a lot of time in. Now, most people go when they on vacation and they enjoy the scenery and stuff. I just wanted to know where the bars were. I just wanted to know how to get drunk. And I got drunk all the time. And I had big problems when I drank at places. And luckily I didn't get arrested in Rome or Italy or London. But I had big problems with people and places, and it was all because of alcohol. So when I was back home in uh, in Oregon with my partner after after those 28 years, and I was driving a Mercedes. I had a 300E, and he had a Porsche 944, and things were really good, right? Nice house, 3 bedroom, 3 bath house in the hills, and I was drinking, and I was unhappy. I was unhappy because I was drunk all the time. I was getting up in the morning at 7 in the morning, going to 7-Eleven and getting a can of beer just to get by. Uh, I was on medication for my schizophrenia. I was on Klonopin, enormous amounts of Klonopin. Uh, and anyway, I was just unhappy. I was just an unhappy human being. I had all the things in the world anybody could want, but I was unhappy, and it was because of the drinking. Uh, anyway, one night I decided I'd had enough, and so I attempted suicide. This wasn't the first time; it was one of many times in my life, but this time I really meant it. When they found me, I was in the bathtub. I had cut my wrists and also taken all my drugs, all my Seroquel, all my Klonopin, and they found me in the bathtub. Uh, I do know how they found me. I won't go into that, but anyway, I was put in the hospital, and I was it was in intensive care. I had a breathing tube down my throat. I had IVs in my neck. Um, and I was in a coma for 3 days. Anyway, it took me about 2 weeks to recover enough to be able to talk again. Uh, and in the hospital, my partner of 28 years came to me and I said, "Can I come home?" And he said, "No, you cannot come home." And I thought, what the hell am I going to do now? Because the car was in his name, the house was in his name, because he's a smart man, and I was a drunk. And I had no job, uh, no car, no place to live, no partner after 28 years. And I was in the hospital still for another 2 weeks. So I decided to go to rehab because it's some place to go, right? And I went to rehab in Beaverton, Oregon. Was there for about another month and a half. And then guess where I landed? I had no friends because I was a drunk and I was a mean drunk. I only had my mommy and my daddy, and I ended up back at my mom and dad's house. And my dad said, "You can come here, but if you drink, I'll kick you out." And I knew he meant it. Um, you have to get a job. I knew I did. So I ended up at my parents' house again. And I stayed sober for 4 years. Uh, and I stayed sober in the traditional AA. I went to meetings every day in Veneta, Oregon, little podunk town. And of course, I was an out gay man. So I thought, well, they'll either accept me or they won't. Fuck them. And they did. I couldn't believe it. That's the amazing thing about AA, you know. You can be a gay man in a little country town, and not everyone is as thrilled with you being there, but they all accept you as a gay, as an alcoholic, and they invite you in. AA is like that. You know, you can tell people your secrets, and don't tell them everything, but you can let people in on things, and people accept you for who you are. And that's what this group has done for me. Has accepted me for who I am. And I thank this group for that. So I stayed sober for 4 years. I was a GSR. I led meetings. I did all that kind of stuff. And one day I decided it was a good idea to smoke a joint because it was legal in Oregon. I smoked a joint, and I don't remember how or when after that, but I got drunk. So for me, marijuana was a gateway drug for me, not for everybody, but for me, any kind of drug, I go off on alcohol, immediately go right to alcohol. So when I did know some people that were in AA, and they stuck around me a little bit for a while until I got really mean. One person stayed with me, and he told me about Zoom meetings about 3 years ago. So I went to a Zoom meeting for the first time, a Zoom meeting. Got sober again, stayed sober for 18 months. And my sobriety date now is June 15th of 2023. Because guess what? I went back out again and got a fifth of bourbon, drank it, didn't enjoy it, and came back. So, and my sobriety date is the same as my secular AA date when I came to secular AA, and about as long as I've been coming to this meeting. So I tell you what, if you are an alcoholic, keep coming back. And eventually you get to be an alcoholic that has 13 years or so, like somebody said earlier today. Somebody has 30 some years here or more. Some people have a day, and that's okay. We only have a day at a time. And I only have today. I only have this moment. And I know I'm not going to drink between now and the next meeting, and I'm pretty sure of that. So thanks for letting me share. Hope that any made sense. It's like packing a lot of talking into a long time. So thanks for letting me share. My name is Mark. I'm still an alcoholic.